the most difficult challenge for organized retail is to have a profitable business.
Right.
And organized retail has been in this business for a while now, and yet if you look at profitability, I'm not sure if it's quite there yet.
Right.
And so one really has to ask the question, how do you get to a profitable organized retail business?
Right.
And the organized retail business in India faces, especially in food, I think, apparel is somewhat different, I suppose, and there are other sectors of retail that are different, but at least in the food business, which is a huge business, the nature of competition is very severe. The competition from kirana stores, in my judgment, is very, very strong.
Right.
And the economics is such that, the challenge, that is what creates the challenges for the organized retail. So if you look at a kirana store, typically their margins are 15 to 18%.
Right.
In India, you have suggested retail price. So even if you provide, a fantastic shopping environment, you cannot change the suggested retail price. So then the question is, how does an organized retail make money? No, you really have to ask the question. After 10 years, we are not profitable.
Does it make sense to stay
doesn't
in
make
business?
sense, right? People always tell me that, for an Indian consumer, how far is the Indian consumer willing to travel?
Right.
10, 15 minutes? In 10, 15 minutes, what distance can you travel?
Right.
Maybe 2 kilometers,
Right.
3 kilometers. In this distance of 3 kilometers, are there other alternatives available to you on the way? Many.
Right.
So when you think about an organized retail, the question is, what's their catchment area?
Right.
Given where do you want to be in terms of location, which
Right.
will dictate your real estate costs.
Right.
So there's a huge play between real estate costs, size of the store, and the catchment area. So that's the challenge. The kirana stores will make these guys run for their money, actually, and I don't necessarily see FDI having much impact. If you look at other parts of the world, that is the evidence. If you look at Brazil, for example, the kirana stores are live and well. If you take a look at China, I think it's the same story.
Right.
And in Indian context, it's even a more poignant story, actually. In India, it's a very peculiar problem because in many other emerging markets, big box retailer or organized retail came in at a different point in the economic development cycle. Much earlier, actually, relative to India. And since organized retail has come into India at a later point in the development cycle, therefore it is seriously affected by the cost structures.
Right.
Especially real estate and human resources. If your home market is now saturating or saturated, you have to find other opportunities for growth, and emerging markets provide the growth they're looking for. But whether or not these kinds of adventures will lead to profitable growth is a question mark, and at least the data seems to suggest that even in a place like China, where Walmart has an $8 billion business, it's
Right.
barely breaking even. So,
Right.
and it's been there for 15 years.
Right. So that fair enough.
That's the challenge. So on one hand, you cannot escape the idea of going into this market because you want growth. On the other hand, the reality is that making that growth profitable. I believe that the solution has to come from inside India. Once somebody comes up and shows the model for success,
Right.
then perhaps there'll be other people who will jump in. So the only solution, in my judgment, is really going back to what Reliance had offered or Reliance had conceived long time ago when they went into this business, and they really talked about, from the farm to the end user.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about the cost structures, the savings from the farm to the store are humongous, especially in food. In food, they talk about cost of perishability, or the amount of food is destroyed in transporting from the farm to the store is like 40%. And unless you can really try to have systems and processes in place that can save that 40%, it's not clear to me as to how the organized retail really competes with the kirana store.